Sharon Williams woke up from the fact that a bright sunray slipped through the loosely closed curtains and ended up right next to her face. The woman grimaced and sighed sadly, looking at the clock hanging on the wall. Wow, it's already 9 o'clock. Time flies so fast. Sharon thought bitterly and tried to get out of bed. But having remembered how helpless she was, the sick woman abandoned this venture. Sharon had been bedridden for about a year, but she still couldn't get used to her disability. Not a day passed that the unfortunate woman didn't think back to the time that she was still healthy and enjoyed her life. Lord, what did I do to deserve this? Sharon thought, wiping away a tear. The woman was devastated over the fact that she couldn't even take care of herself and was thus forced to turn to her husband for help. In order to finally get out of bed, she had to overcome the surging feeling of despair and call Alfred. "Honey, are you awake yet? Can you help me, please?" In response, Sharon heard her husband's disgruntled sigh coming from the next room, which was replaced by the shuffling sound of his slippers. I'm coming. You don't have to yell like that. It's not like you're in a hurry or something," Alfred said, opening the bedroom door. Pulling herself together, Sharon desperately ignored her husband's comment so as to avoid getting into yet another fight with him. She had long noticed that Alfred had become especially cold and virtually stopped paying any attention to her. Most of the time, he walked around the house pouting, occasionally putting on a mask of ostentatious sympathy and care. Of course, their relationship used to be different, but there was no going back anymore. Realizing that Alfred didn't want to take care of her, Sharon repeatedly offered to hire a nurse or a housekeeper to take care of her. But her husband pursed his lips touchily in response and declared, "Why would we need a nurse when I can handle everything myself? Besides, we have to count every cent now. Your treatment costs us a lot of money, in case you forgot." Of course, the way Sharon's husband was acting about the money she had earned and now needed for her treatment hurt the woman deeply. After all, anyone who knew the sick woman knew that she achieved everything she had in life thanks to her hard work and determination. Sharon's parents were poor, and therefore her childhood could hardly be called easy and carefree. Sharon often had to wear the hand-me-downs of her older cousin, who lived in the same neighborhood and believed that she had great taste. Sharon did exceptionally well in school, and her teachers insisted that she should be able to get into any college of her choice. Fortunately, her teachers were right, and Sharon did get admitted into a great college. Having gotten her economics degree, she quickly figured out about the best direction for her business and dived headlong into it. Of course, Sharon's first steps in sales turned out to be the most difficult and brought little profit. However, little by little, Sharon managed to achieve such success by the age of 30 that others could only dream of at that age. At the same time, having achieved financial independence, she didn't become obnoxious or arrogant. Sharon's friends and acquaintances knew that they could always count on her help in difficult times, as she was the kind of person that would never leave them alone in their problems. By the age of 32, she already had her own car, which she drove herself, and was actually great at it. At the sight of the elegantly dressed, beautiful woman sitting behind the wheel of an expensive car, men turned around and shook their heads enviously. At the same time, few of the people in her life knew how much energy and effort it took Sharon Williams to climb to the top of the financial Olympus. Once while on a business trip in a neighboring city, Sharon got a flat tire and stopped on the side of the road, not knowing how to change it. Having turned on the hazard lights, the woman hoped that someone would stop to help her. Unfortunately, the traffic on this part of the road was light, so Sharon had to wait for about half an hour before the driver of the battered pickup truck stopped to offer his help. It turned out to be a young man named Alfred, who immediately liked the attractive, rich woman. Judging by his appearance, the man lived in one of the farms located nearby. Alfred replaced the flat very quickly, and Sharon was so impressed and so grateful that she paid the man several times more than this kind of work was actually worth. "This is for your help. Take it, you honestly earned it," said the young woman. The pickup driver smiled and shamelessly took the money. At that moment, Sharon felt strong sympathy for the man. She never got her business meeting that day. Instead, she decided to show Alfred around her hometown and even take him to a restaurant. But it wasn't some whim of the rich woman who chose to entertain herself at the expense of a poor farmer. Moreover, Alfred wasn't actually as simple as he might have seemed. The man had already gone through an unsuccessful relationship and a painful divorce. Their romance flared up quickly and passionately, surprising the young business lady's friends. Sharon's parents had passed away by this time, so it was only her best friend Amanda who could give her advice at this point, and she kept repeating, "What are you doing with that lowlife? Trust me, he'll just play you like a fool and dump you. I can feel it in my heart." But Sharon was blinded by love and continued to believe in the sincerity of Alfred's feelings, while the man surrounded her with care and affection. They dated for about 6 months, after which they held an intimate wedding ceremony. By this time, Alfred virtually stopped working, living at the expense of his young wife. Everything was going well until Sharon found out that she was sick. The worst part, however, was the fact that the doctors couldn't figure out what exactly was wrong with the woman, despite having run countless tests on her. It was most likely cancer, but it was nearly impossible to be any more specific at that point. The unfortunate woman spent about a month at the hospital, leaving the institution with tears in her eyes. When she was finally being discharged, the doctors at the local hospital advised her not to lose heart. They contacted one of the clinics in New York to arrange for the woman to get surgery there. Of course, it won't be cheap. On the other hand, money doesn't seem to be an issue for you. Well, it's up to you in any case, the doctor added. Sharon only shook her head in response and said her goodbye before leaving the office. Unfortunately, the doctors couldn't be sure that the surgery would help Sharon, so the news didn't sound all that promising to the young woman. Sharon was feeling sad and was probably spiraling into a depression. On top of that, as soon as Alfred learned about his wife's diagnosis, he seemed to have immediately lost interest in her and started treating her in a completely different way. At first, he did try to take good care of Sharon, but then he started leaving her alone in an empty house more and more often, spending his evenings partying with friends. Moreover, Alfred took over his wife's business when she was still in the hospital. At the same time, he flatly refused to pay for Sharon's surgery, claiming that it was an unjustified risk and a waste of money. All Sharon could do was spend her days in bed, crying softly and thinking about her past. Devastated by her husband's attitude, Sharon did fall into depression, which turned out to be very difficult to get out of. Time passed, rushing through the pages of the tear-off calendar. Poor Sharon would have probably lived out the rest of her days like that if it weren't for a strange message she got one day. As it turned out later, it was Sharon's former classmate who sent her that message. Apparently, he had been in love with her since high school. Then, many years ago, Bill Harris always helped Sharon carry her backpack, took her out to dinners, and gave her flowers that he picked at a flower bed near the city hall. Unfortunately, teenage love rarely leads to something serious, and this case was no exception. However, when Bill accidentally found out about Sharon's situation, he decided to help her. At first, he just texted and called her almost every day. Then he started visiting Sharon every once in a while, always bringing her meds and groceries. If it weren't for Bill, the poor sick woman would have probably never managed to defeat her depression. Time passed. Alfred became more and more distant, having completely taken over the management of his wife's business. Although he didn't do it alone, but with the help of a pretty assistant named Ashley, who actually looked more like his mistress than an assistant. She even started coming to their house, excusing her presence with some business issues that needed Alfred's immediate attention. One day, Sharon accidentally overheard a conversation between Alfred and Ashley. The couple was talking in the next room so that Sharon wouldn't hear them. Of course, Sharon didn't like eavesdropping, But this conversation seemed too strange to let slide. "I need an answer, Alfred. How long do you expect me to wait around? A week? A month? Or maybe a year? When can I move into this house as its rightful owner?" exclaimed Ashley with an emphasis on the last word. "Be patient, my dear. She's terminally ill. I'm sure the situation will resolve itself soon," Alfred replied, sounding irritated. He thought that his wife took her pills and was sleeping soundly, never realizing that she heard their entire conversation. "So that's what they're planning, to get rid of me?" Sharon thought anxiously. But the conclusion was obvious. Those two were having an affair and were planning to take over her business. However, being rather naive, the woman refused to accept that fact and therefore decided to give Alfred one last chance. Time passed, but nothing changed in the behavior of her husband, who clearly didn't realize that his wife was aware of his plan. In the meantime, the woman couldn't shake off the feeling of danger, which she felt was hovering over her, tormenting her mind. But when she finally shared her concerns with Bill, the man took this information with due attention. Unbeknownst to Sharon, he turned to a private detective and hired him to investigate the matter. Bill got the surveillance results a couple of days later, and to say that he was shocked would be an understatement. The fact was that the detective found out that Alfred had already bought a potent poison on the black market, which caused instant death from cardiac arrest when ingested. The most terrifying part, however, was that the poison wouldn't even leave a trace, thus guaranteeing that Alfred wouldn't face any consequences for killing his wife. Without wasting a single minute, Bill went straight to the police. Fortunately, thanks to the information that Bill provided, the police detained the insidious couple that same day. The poison of an unknown origin was found in Alfred's pocket. Sharon thanked Bill for her miraculous rescue, realizing the man once again proved his love for her. Moreover, Bill studied her medical history in detail and contacted a hospital specializing in this kind of disease. To Sharon's delight, the surgeons at the New York hospital were happy to take her case. Thus, the woman was now expecting a flight to the big city, where the best doctors would help her to get back to a normal life. The surgery lasted over 8 hours, and according to the doctors, went great. Sharon returned home 2 months later. Bill was waiting for her at the airport. All this time, he couldn't stop worrying about the love of his life. Now, the young people were expecting to have many happy days ahead of them, full of love and mutual respect. After all, when a family is built on true feelings, it is bound to be a happy one.